We're live. All right, guys. So we are live. I'm here with the fat pastor, Shawn. Shawn, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. How are you doing? It's good to be with you guys.
I'm doing great. So we're a little bit early, guys, and we're going to jump into the interview in a few minutes. But since we're early, we'll take a few minutes and just talk to Shawn about. Tell us, how was your journey over here this morning, Shawn?
You know, Yakima is beautiful today. Yakima's always beautiful, man, but I sure love it in the summer. I got to spend a little time at Rimrock yesterday, and man, this is a good time to be in the valley.
So we just went up to Clear Lake.
Yeah.
What, the day before that,
Yep.
Tony?
Okay. Yep.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
Tony, am I centered? Because I know he's centered on when it's on me.
You're not centered.
Can you center me? Tony's gonna center my chakras.
I thought we were going spiritual already. I was like, let's get centered before we start. It's gonna be do our breathing exercises.
Now I'm centered. Oh, that's much better. I feel better that I'm centered now. Oh, Tony hit his own camera. That's okay. We don't care. We don't care about Tony. So Shawn, you are the fat pastor.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
And how long have you been chefing it up for now?
Man, you know, it's crazy how time flies, because I spent most of my life as a pastor and only stopped pastoring full time probably about 2 years ago. But yeah, officially, since the show on MasterChef released in 2017. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to go ahead and jump into this. Guys, if you're watching right now, we're going to be giving away a free HP computer at the end of the stream. And you need to make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's links all over Facebook. So if you're interested in registering for the free HP all-in-one computer, and if you don't have the registration link, Tony, you should be able to pull it up on another tab. I should have gave that to Tony already, but we'll post it. We can post it live in the comments.
Gotcha.
So if anybody wants to register, I'm going to send that to Tony right now. Because I don't know if I can comment from over here. All right, guys. So coming up next, we got Shawn. Tell us about his journey. Okay, we're back.
All right.
We're back. So yeah, guys, if you're interested in getting the link, just post a live comment in here. And I think Tony's got some questions ready for us over there. So Tony's going to throw those questions up. And as soon as I see the first one come across my screen. Now, while Tony's getting that first question ready, one of the questions that we don't have preloaded is, I wanted to talk to you about it first, which we did earlier. A lot of people, when I told them we were going to be doing this interview with you, they were asking about the children's program that you were doing before.
Yep.
So tell a little bit about what that program is and when people, because I know there's some things that you got to get organized first.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit if you can.
Oh man, Urban Kitchen. That's really our first project that we ever started when we decided we were going to really take the chefing thing live. Right about the time that MasterChef was coming out and I was going to be on TV, there was a lot of hard stuff going on in Yakima. And so went to this big meeting of the minds. Everybody in Yakima seemed to be there. It was at one of the churches, but all the city leaders were there. And people were just really mad about all of the stuff that was going on. And rightfully so. I mean, it's tough stuff. Lots of murders that were happening. And so I'm sitting there, though, and I'm listening as all of our city leaders are sitting on stage and people are coming up one by one and just pointing fingers like your fault, your fault, your fault. And who's going to fix this? And it just really hit me as I was sitting there. I'm listening to all this and I'm going, man, I don't think the problem is the problem. I think the problem is that it's not my problem. We're wanting to point the finger at everybody else. And, until we take personal responsibility for these things, we're not going to fix anything. And so ended up really just listening to these people talking and thinking through this. And guy got up from YPAL at the time. YPAL doesn't exist anymore, but YPAL director got up and was talking about how that they have this huge space for kids to come in and they need people to work with kids and spend time. And he's like, man, we got this big kitchen and nobody's using it. And I went, oh man. And so ended up, long story short, got together with some of my dear friends, leaders in the community, Dave Allen, who longtime leader in the community out at Allen Brothers Fruit. And then Julie Kirchhoff, who is my, just about my right hand in everything we do. She's run kitchens for me. And sat down with her and him and said, hey, let's start a program for kids. And so we talked it all out, created a plan for Urban Kitchen, which is a 4-month program where kids come in and learn business and culinary skills 2 times a week. And then at the end of that program, they get to run their own restaurant for 3 nights. And
Wow.
over the course of that 3 nights, they'll serve about 180 people. It's crazy. The kids are 10 to 18 years old.
Where are
so
these
wide ranges?
Where are these is this restaurants that are already functioning?
Yeah,
I heard you have some restaurants.
Well, yeah. So at the time, we were using the Wipeout facility, and then we did a couple events at like the Yakima Museum. Early on, the Yakima Museum was a huge supporter of what we were doing, so we would do stuff there. But yeah, eventually we moved over to our restaurant at the time, which was Eats and Elixirs, and we would serve there, and people would come in all throughout the weekend. And man, the kids just had a blast. It was so much fun serving them, and we're still we haven't stopped the program. It's just that we're in transition right now to find the right location for us to start serving them again. We've actually graduated about 5 classes of kids, again ranging from 10 to 18 years old. Amazing kids all around the valley, and I can just tell you story after story of how amazing these kids are. They're just awesome. In fact, actually, I will tell you one story. There's one kid, I won't say his name, but he was 10 at the time, about to turn 11. And he was my kid that was always really a little bit hard to communicate with, because he was very serious. And he wanted to be there. It was like nobody was forcing him to be there, but he was always super serious. It was hard to break through. And so on the last night of service, we had just served, again, about 180 people over the course of these 3 nights. So he's wiped out. He's a 10-year-old turning 11 that night. We gave him a big birthday cake, celebrated him. But he's going back to the kitchen after everything, and he is looking just super tired. And I said, hey, man. And he stopped and he turned around and I said, dude, I'm so proud of you. And he looks at me and he goes, I've never been proud of myself before. And man, that's my number one memory from everything that we've done. And we've had several experiences like that. But that, for me, the first class that we graduated, that's my favorite experience I've had so far with these kids. And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Side of the microphone when you talk. Okay. So one of the things that we're actually trying to do that maybe we can collaborate at some point is we wanted to start something similar, but obviously we don't. Well, I love to cook, but
sure,
it's different. But we wanted a lot of kids want to start podcasting. They don't know where to start, kind of equipment. We wanted to set up kind of a summer camp, maybe, or after school program.
Yeah,
where we help kids set up that wanted to create their own like YouTube channels. Yeah. Basic gear they can get, help parents kind of, because a lot of kids want to get into this, and a lot of times you'll have parents almost knocking it because they don't see it as an actual potential career.
Sure.
And we live in a day now where social media is kind of like, people aren't paying for commercials on TV anymore. They're paying for commercials on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube ads.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe we could talk about that at some point.
I love that, man. And I think we've always said that. We're like, this is not exclusive to cooking. Anybody can do this. You can teach kids skills. You can build relationships with them. And any skill, any talent, any trade, you can do the exact same thing.
Yeah. And it would be fun because even with what you're doing, these kids can only be learning to cook, but there could be almost like a channel created with it.
Yep.
We'd be willing to donate our time. If you're doing this for
man.
free for the kids, we'd come in and, help you out. We could bring gear, set up gear.
It's killer. And it really is. I mean, it's totally free for the kids. They get their own chef knives. They get a chef coat at the end of the program. And that's just thanks to people in the community.
They get to keep the stuff?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And is this sponsored by somebody? Is there local sponsors that sponsor this that you guys promote when they're doing it?
No, in fact, it's just, well, yes, actually, but nobody particular. We have people from all over the community.
Okay.
Kind of
just people that are getting involved that are support.
Yep.
And that's why this is cool. How I found out about you, and I wish I could remember the young guy's name because he was like, please tell him you heard it from me. I was, as I told you, I just moved here from Florida and I went to get my driver's license, and I was wearing actually one of these shirts I'm wearing now, Wise Media Group, and it's telling about what we do. He goes, oh, it'd make a great interview is the fat pastor. I thought he was kidding. I thought he said fat bastard.
Right.
Like Austin Powers.
Never heard that before.
And I was like, oh yeah. He goes, no, there's a guy here local in town who used to pastor, and now he was on TV and stuff. And I think I reached out to you the same day.
Okay.
And you responded almost like instantly, which was like, I was like, oh, is this one of his minions that I responded to me, or is this really him? And a week later, here you are sitting in the studio. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's good to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about your journey on season 8 of MasterChef? Because that's kind of like what you said kicked everything off. So season 8, MasterChef. How has that impacted your culinary career, pulling you from spreading the word to spreading the food?
Yeah, it was an amazing diving board, if you will. I've always loved cooking. I grew up cooking with my dad in the kitchen, and just some of my favorite memories are with my dad, and he's gone now. And so I just love the ability to sit food in front of people and make them smile. I've never sat down at a table with people where food is involved, good food's involved, and had a bad conversation. And so cooking is so much fun, but I've always loved it. People have told me I'm good at it. In 2011 or so, my wife and I were making a bucket list of things we wanted to do before we die. And I had written down, I want to cook for Gordon Ramsay before I die. But just kind of an offshoot thing, sometimes you got to dream big. And so 2016, my niece writes me and she's like, hey, they're doing MasterChef auditions in Portland this weekend. You need to come. And I'm like, man, that's too soon. And I'm making all these excuses. She's like, no, you said you wanted to do this. You got to do it. And so got my buddy and we drove to Portland and I tried out, had no idea how far it was going to take me. I mean, you're talking that season.
Yeah. When was this? Was this before Hell's Kitchen?
No. So Hell's Kitchen's been going on a long time. So Hell's Kitchen. Yeah.
Because I would be scared to go on his show after seeing him on Hell's Kitchen. I'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I've always had so much huge respect for him. I love how straight up he is, I mean, it's a personality. I think that he is somewhat like that in real life, but I've never felt like that was who he really is at the end of the day. And so, I'm there and I'm kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. No idea. There's like 40,000 people who tried out that year.
Really?
And so I had no thought that I was going to make it anywhere. And pretty soon they come in and they have us, cook our food and do what we're doing. Try the food, take me to the next level, have me go meet in front of other people. And
what was the submission process like? Did you go somewhere, or is it like you make food on video?
Yeah,
because they can't taste or smell it.
Well, they did. So they actually did. So this was the interesting part. So that first, I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying this, but the audition process is you basically take food that's already cooked and ready to go. You cannot cook anything on site, and then you take out a plate, you make it look pretty. You've got 3 minutes. And then after that 3 minutes, you've got producers and like casting producers and then chefs who'll come around and taste your food and ask you questions. It's crazy fast. And then they'll stand up at the front of the room. They'll say, hey, we are going to call your name. If we don't call your name, goodbye, have a nice day. And like there's 20 people in the room in my first heat. And they called like 3 of our names and everybody else was dismissed. And so I'm stoked because I'm like, well, that's cool. I don't know what happens next, but that's kind of cool. And so, man, before the end of the day, I was meeting with the creators of the show, and they're just grilling us, man. They're not playing around. You think Gordon Ramsay's insane? These guys are just, man, they're tough.
Really?
Oh yeah. And so then the next thing I know, they're saying, hey, come back to Portland for an on-camera interview, and we'll go from there. 6 months later, I made it on the show.
Did they tell you, aside from your food, because I imagine you could be the best chef in the world, but if you've got like the personality of a rock, this guy can cook, but he's gonna bore the audience to death,
right?
So there had to be a level of like charisma, and your food had to be up there, right?
Yeah, all the things, and you don't really know that going into it. And so it's like I learned so much in those processes, but man, like they loved the fat pastor stick. And so
were you already the fat pastor?
Yeah, I had a blog that I was doing just where I could post some of my food, and get feedback on pictures and ideas and recipes and things like that. And it wasn't crazy. It wasn't like it was blowing up or anything. I was just something I was doing for fun.
Because you're really not like I was picturing when the fat pastor. I was picturing like Fat Albert. Of the chef world when I found you online. I'm looking at pictures. I'm like, because usually there's pictures of you and other people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't obvious because I couldn't find any pictures of like you and Ramsay like side by side. So I'm I don't know which one is Shawn until I found you on the internet and we started on Facebook and started chatting. I was like, yeah, he's not, because you're not. I mean,
yeah,
you don't look like you do CrossFit 24/7, but you also don't look like you live on Twinkies either.
Yeah, no, I could stand to lose a little bit. I always tell people, I'm like, man, it's supposed to be kind of an ironic thing, not a literal thing. So trying to keep it from being literal, but
Shawn, we can go to the gym together.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
So you met Gordon Ramsay, obviously.
Yeah.
And was there, because I don't see a lot, I was looking at other guests that were on the show, and I don't see a lot of pictures of guests with Ramsay.
Right.
Was that like a thing? Like,
oh yeah, totally. I mean, you get, the more you progress throughout the competition, then a little bit closer here and there. But there is like this unspoken gap between you and the talent, if you will.
right.
So yeah, no, I got to spend time with him while I was cooking, and he spent a lot of time coming up and talking and, having conversations, but it's not like you get to sit there and, take a post picture with him. They're not going to do that.
No, huh?
No.
Yeah, they don't want pictures of Gordon Ramsay popping up on eBay.
Right.
How intimidating was the whole process?
It's again, I mean, I think I could do it now, and I'd be in a lot different frame of mind now that I've got, that season behind me. But going into it, it's kind of this combination of fear and wonder, because if you've never been in a Hollywood TV show the size of MasterChef, I mean, it's really overwhelming how crazy cool, and everything's really just awesome how they put it together and how it's set up. And I remember walking onto the MasterChef stage for the first time, and I almost forgot what I was doing because it was just so cool. I mean, it's amazing.
Was it what you see on TV? Was the whole place done up, or was it just enough for the camera angles to grab?
No, I mean, it really is. They have certain aspects of the camera shots, obviously, that you're not going to see. But man, it is a legit studio. Man.
Really?
It is sick.
And where was this at?
This was in Burbank. So
Burbank. Okay.
Yeah, yep.
So now you went through all of this, and how far did you make it?
So actually I lost in the first round.
Okay.
I think, that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. Because everybody who makes it farther on MasterChef ends up being hooked in a huge contract. And so having two things that happen. One, I did really well on the show, and so I didn't screw up my food. I didn't lose because I sucked. I lost because my component edged me out. And Gordon Ramsay actually voted for me. He stood there and was like, no, I think Shawn should win. And the other two judges are the ones who chose my opponent, who actually ended up becoming my best friend in the world.
Who, your opponent?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like there were so many good things that came out of that. Like it would have been awesome to keep going. It would have been so cool.
Right.
But man, like losing on a good note worked really well for me.
So when you say people that went further got locked into contracts,
Yeah.
like what, like they can't go open a restaurant?
No, not without permission. And there's even contracts that say, even if you do open a restaurant because of your time on MasterChef, you're going to have to pay us like honorariums. I mean, you basically owe them for your success at that point.
We own your soul.
Yeah. Yeah. For a certain period of time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
You could have wrote a book, How the Pastor Sold His Soul to the Devil.
Right. Yeah. I sold my soul to Gordon Ramsay.
He eats it every morning for breakfast. So you got out on season 1. How do you balance your life now with like your passion for cooking? And I know you're not doing you're not pastoring anymore.
Yeah.
You stopped about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But while you were coming out of this, and you kind of had this push in the cooking world now, where I imagine this helped your name in the community, because I saw you open up some restaurants, but you were still pastoring at that time.
Yeah.
How did you balance all of that out?
Not very well, honestly. I mean, I think that was really difficult for everybody involved. It was difficult for my team, because most of my team was involved in my business. And so like we're all cooking together, but we're also pastoring together. It was tough, man. And I think that people really struggled with that. And I think rightfully so. We're trying to figure out how to be present for people as pastors, but also how to build this, cooking business that we've got in front of us. And we had to support our family, small church. It's hard to take care of your family financially with a small church. So.
And what kind of pastor were you?
I was a leader in a Protestant church that we started. So we consider ourselves kind of a charismatic church.
So what type of churches do they do? Like where you come up and eat like the wafer?
Yeah, so I think that's more like Catholic style, where the priest puts it in your tongue. And
so you guys didn't do that?
No, we would have communion where everybody just kind of,
Because I would imagine they'd be like, we're going to Shawn's church. He's got the best wafers.
Dude, the bread and the wine, it's amazing.
he bakes these wafers fresh every Sunday morning.
This is a 4-course communion.
We actually got a question. If you can highlight that question from Miguel. It says, Miguel Galvez says, where does Shawn Niles work at?
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. So right now our business is Fat Pastor Productions, multi-project collaborative, if you will. And so my business partner Gilbert and Chef Julie, we do a dinner club. We've got Urban Kitchen. We do a ton of catering. And so restaurant wise, we just shut down Eats and Elixirs because we were in a pretty rough location and very difficult for people to find and enjoy us.
Where was it?
It was over 910 Summit View Avenue. A lot of people who've lived in Yakima a long time would know the old 901 Pasta building. And so we had amazing support from the community, but just didn't have that ability to keep it going there. So we're currently working on finding a new location for Eats and Elixirs, which means we don't have any restaurants open at the moment. So if you'd like to come eat our food, hopefully you're going to check out some of the catering events that we're doing. Maybe you're invited to these fundraisers or dinners or whatever.
Yeah. When is the next, like, what is something that, you know, us podcast guys can get invited to? So I'd love to go and just kind of video, because honestly, because you're so local here in the community and it seems like you have a lot of ties, we're trying to get more involved in the local community on what we can do to bring awareness to different types of scenarios. And maybe you'll be a good facilitator of that. But if we wanted to come to one of these fundraisers and, you know, kind of get some behind the scenes footage and stuff.
Yeah, there's lots of different things. I mean, right now we're gearing up for a big winemakers dinner at Van Arnhem. And so that's coming up towards the middle of this month. And so if you're a member of Van Arnhem's winery, man, there's so many things coming up in September. I'm trying to think through what I can to share about for that. A lot of private parties. There's we're doing a long table event for somebody, but I don't know how publicized that is yet, so I won't say anything else about that. But there's going to be a cool long table event in one of the hop farms, and so we're doing that. I think we got there's a pregnancy center in Toppenish that we're going to be doing an event for. But anyways, you can follow, you know, a lot of what we're doing on Facebook and Instagram, TikTok. We're always, seems like we're always cooking someplace and doing something. We got some pop-ups coming up, downtown summer nights we're working on, being a part of that before it's over this summer. So yeah, things like that.
And what's the bike club?
Yeah, bike club. Bike club is the nation's first legal underground dining club. And so a lot of people were, you know, getting really excited about this whole underground dining club thing back in the day. And chefs were using it as a way to serve their food without being stuck in a brick and mortar with all the taxes and all that thing. And so we started Bike Club as a way to help us raise money for Urban Kitchen. And so 10% of all the proceeds go back into Urban Kitchen. But it's a 4 to 5 course meal that we serve a couple times a month. We'll just cook whatever we're excited about. And usually we'll partner up with like wineries and stuff like that so we can have the wine pairings. And we're cooking really cool, like fancy meals for people. And people can be members of the club. You just got to sign up. In fact, this is our anniversary month now that we're in August. So we are going on, oh gosh, we launched in 2017. So year six.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So do you guys, so to answer the original guy, Miguel Calvez's question, where do you work? You have your own production company, catering company, and you get hired to go out and cater some of these, you know, your name must be part. I mean, this must have done really, really well for your career because people, it's a draw, right? You can cook really good, you're charismatic, and you get to bring your name of, he was on, you know.
Yeah.
Is that something that do you embrace the MasterChef thing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's really opened up amazing opportunities. I'm so grateful for MasterChef. I got a lot of friends who were on the show that, you know, for them, it was a rough experience, but man, I had a blast and I'm grateful. It's opened up many opportunities. I was on a Netflix show and it was another really cool opportunity just to get my name out there and be able to compete.
What was that?
It's called Best Leftovers Ever. And so Best Leftovers Ever is really cheesy Netflix show. It's along the same lines as some of these like Nailed It shows and Sugar Rush and all these things on Netflix that they do. But it was a competition taking leftovers and turning leftovers into something really fancy and exciting.
That sounds like my every night after.
Yeah.
Can we talk about marijuana being legal in the state of Washington in front of the pastor?
Hey,
I don't know about that.
If I were to smoke marijuana at nighttime, sometimes leftovers is what would sound best to me.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I get that. And I mean, nothing's off the table for me. You can talk about anything you want to, but I think that for a lot of people, like, and I know for myself too, like I hate leftovers, man. And so this was a really fun opportunity to take leftovers and turn them into something different.
Leftovers.
My wife gets mad at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want leftovers.
My girlfriend actually talks about Tony. She's like, he's such a snob. He gave us his leftovers and we used it. We fed it to our dogs.
That's awesome.
Oh, at least somebody got it.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
So what inspired you to pursue because you were a minister first? What inspired you to become a minister? And then how did that transfer into cooking? Did something hit you while ministering that you fell in love with cooking?
Yeah, honestly, it was my dad. I mean, just growing up in my family and cooking with my dad. His family was into restaurants and cooking and different things, and I never knew that side of them. But I got some of that from my dad. Ministry, though, I felt at a very young age that I was called to ministry, and didn't really think that there was ever going to be anything else involved in that. And so I just pursued ministry. Now looking back on that, I am grateful for that time. I'm super grateful for that and all the experiences that I had, even the hard experiences, man. There's been some tough stuff in ministry. But it helped me to really kind of develop a theology around food and drink, based on, things that I read in the Bible that a lot of people kind of glance over. The first miracle that Jesus did was turning water to wine. So obviously he came to party. The kingdom of God is good and delicious.
That's the reason why I stay involved with religion, because I feel like Jesus eats really good.
Heck yeah, man.
I feel like he knows how to eat. It's not like, let's go to the most expensive restaurant.
Yeah.
Let's go out here and walk through nature and see what we can make. So I'm down for some Jesus food. 100%.
Absolutely. And I think we do. I think we take that and we turn a lot of the conversation around religious. We make it so incredibly religious, if you will. And so just, I don't know. It's like being in a lab, man. There's a lot of things that you can talk about in a lab, but until you get in the real world and you find out if it works, it's totally different. And I think a relationship with God is the same way.
It's like theories, right? Theories are just a theory until you apply it to a real life situation.
Yeah. I always told the people in my church, I'm like, I don't care how big this church gets. I want to see how big you can get as people and then take that into our city and make a difference.
There you go.
Yeah.
And post that comment from Jake Hartwig.
Hey, what's up, Jake?
Says Shawn made the best cocktail because of the best leftovers. Was that part of the episode?
Yeah. So I had to make a cocktail, and there was a bunch of leftovers there that I was trying to figure out what to do with. And so there's some pineapple, there was tequila. So I took the pineapple, charred the pineapple, and created a vinegar simple syrup, like a white wine vinegar simple syrup. And then took some jalapenos, charred the jalapenos, and created a charred pineapple jalapeno margarita. And fennel is one of my favorite flavors in the world. So I toasted some fennel, ground that up with salt, and used that as the rim. And so we served that at our restaurant when we opened it up. And man, it was delicious.
Tony,
I think you should have brought that.
How did we completely screw this up and not persuade Shawn to bring us in something?
Oh, for sure.
Because we've had like Fiddle's Juice Bar. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
We've had them. We had Yakima Fit Food. Familiar with him at all?
Absolutely.
Every time they come, one of the benefits for us is we have you guys bring us food. I should have had you bring us something. So doing some research on you, you'd said that Yakima, Washington holds a special place in your heart. Can you share some of the fondest memories and impact that it's had on your culinary style?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, gosh, and I can ramble, so shut me up if you need to. But I grew up in Yakima.
If Gordon Ramsay didn't shut you up, by all means,
we're not going to
talk away, Shawn. Talk away.
No, I grew up here in Yakima. Went to Robertson Elementary, Wilson Middle School, and Eisenhower High. I appreciate Yakima, but I was excited to move out. So I moved to New Jersey, met my wife, moved to Hawaii after we got married, and came back and felt like I rediscovered the Pacific Northwest and fell in love with Yakima all over again. And I truly, truly love this valley. People ask me all the time, like, what are you doing in Yakima? I love Yakima, man. It's a beautiful place. We got the best food. We got the best wine. We got the best beer. We got the best everything. And I, again, could never really appreciate that until I left and then came back. And so gained a real global perspective. I love to travel. I love to go anywhere and everywhere around the world. But it feels like for me that as much as I love authentic flavors and I can cook you a real good Italian meal, I love to think about what it takes to take that Italian meal and translate that into the Pacific Northwest. And so how can I bring all of those flavors together, and whether it's Italian or Asian or whatever the case may be.
You know, that was my biggest fear coming here, because I came from a very melting pot town, South Florida. You know, when people think of Florida, they think of alligators and hurricanes.
Right.
I can tell you, I've lived in Florida my whole life, and yes, I've seen alligators, but it's not like they're chasing down the street.
Right.
And the houses there are built to withstand hurricanes. They never had a hurricane blow me away. But we had a melting pot of diverse. Like here in Yakima, what I've noticed is if I go to people, a lot of people, hey, where are you from? A lot of people are from here. They grew up here. They're locals to this area. Where in South Florida, you meet very few people that are from there. They're usually from everywhere else. So we had a very good diverse lecture of food around. I was worried about coming here that the food was just going to be basically Mexican food, because it's a very largely populated Mexican area here.
Yeah. Yep.
And I thought, which I love Mexican food, don't get me wrong, like I tear up the taco trucks. And the ones that we had in Florida that were really good, the individuals moved here from Yakima and they opened up a Mexican style from here, which was fantastic. But I was worried that was going to be the only thing to eat.
Sure.
But I'm surprised after being here now for about, going on 120 days, the food here is actually pretty more diverse than I imagined. What's the place, Tony, right across the street where we did a gig for them? Your buddy over there, we brought the speakers over. Easy Tiger.
Easy Tiger.
Oh, yeah.
Like Easy Tiger has really gone out of their way to kind of create that kind of infusion of food. And it's
great.
It shows me that there's hope to be able to bring culture so people can try different things.
Yep.
Growing up, when you got interested into becoming a chef and you learned that you had this knack for it, at what point did you decide, I'm going to go to culinary school? And did culinary school help you hone your skills, or was it just more of like, it was a waste of money?
I actually didn't go to culinary school, so
I love that.
I'm just classically trained.
Effing
My type
love
of guy,
that,
man, right there.
So do you have? So what is your credential, MasterChef?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's research, honestly.
Yeah.
So you got on MasterChef without stepping foot in culinary
Holy
school.
Spirit.
You're actually, you're not allowed to be on MasterChef if you're culinary trained.
Really?
So it's all for home chefs. So that's where it really, really changed for me.
Okay.
Because at that point, so I'm all into research, man. Like it's like studying the Bible, studying food. Like I love learning. And so I ended up moving to New Jersey, where I moved in with a lady from India. And so she would teach me curries, man. Growing up here in Yakima, we didn't have any Indian food here in Yakima.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, what the heck is this? This is amazing. Like, this is the best food I've ever had. And then after I moved out of her house, I moved in with a guy from Italy, and he's teaching me all of his Italian food. And then I meet my to-be wife, and her family's from Trinidad. So her mom's cooking Trinidadian food for us every night. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. And so learn all of these things. People are teaching their food. They're so generous with how they're willing to like just share their food and their culture. Then we moved to Hawaii, man, and that's a whole different story. So living in Hawaii, again, people just so generous with wanting to feed us all the time. That's one of the reasons I became the fat pastor, is moved to Hawaii, but they said the sticky rice sticks, and they were not wrong. So again, so all of this is just this natural kind of organic way of learning. And I wanted to bring that with me back home to Yakima, you know? And so I still, to this day, like I'm always looking to see, I'm going to say this, I hope I don't offend anybody. So please know I'm saying this sincerely, but sometimes in small towns, you have certain cultural food that they don't cook what they eat. They cook what they think we Americans want to eat. And so you don't get a true representation of their culture. And that drives me crazy, because their culture is beautiful. Like, if you're listening and you're from another culture, like, please, like, I want to celebrate your food. I want to celebrate where you're from, you know? Don't feed me what you think I want to eat.
Right.
Feed me what you eat, because that's where I get the most excited. And so we, whenever we travel, that's what we're looking for, is to be able to compare and to say, hey, this is Italian food. This is not that little chain restaurant in my town that tastes nothing like real Italian food. So I want this, and I want to recreate this, and I want to bring this home with me.
Same with the music.
Yeah.
When they have it in the background, when you go into a restaurant and they do that, you know, you go into a Chinese restaurant or something and they're playing top 40.
Right.
You
right.
know, it's like, I like the ethnicity all the way through.
Absolutely.
The atmosphere and the food.
Well, food tells the story.
Mhm.
And that's my favorite part of cooking, is being able to tell the story of the food. When I go out to eat, like, I'm not expecting the chef to come out and talk to me, but if he does, that's exciting because I get to see a little bit of the passion behind what he's cooking for me. So when we do these dinner club events, we don't introduce a single course without telling everybody why we created this course and what the story is behind it.
Awesome.
And I am convinced that if you took people and you put them in a room, 2 different rooms, and you fed them the exact same meal, and you had one room that was hearing the story behind all of the meal, and then you had them rate the food, I guarantee you the people who had the stories are going to love the food more than the people who didn't.
Is that because it's part of the experience?
Absolutely. 100%.
You know, I told you a little bit about my background. I got in trouble, ended up going to federal prison.
Yeah.
And doing yoga in prison is a weird concept to me, because I was never like into yoga. But I had blew my bicep on my tendon before I went to prison on a mechanical bull ride. So there wasn't a lot of activities that I could do initially.
Sure.
And one of my bunkies, a guy that was in the same dorm as me, was big into yoga. And I was like, you guys are doing like downward dog in prison? This is kind of, to me, it was weird. He goes,
wait, we're still talking about yoga, right?
Yeah, no, I know, right? I was like, wait a minute. I don't want to get a mint on my pillow when we're done.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, I had this thought of what I thought it was going to be like. And he's like, Dan, forget about what you know, forget about what you've seen on TV. He goes, the way this guy teaches yoga is the way it probably should be taught, like in the free world. So he's like, just come to one. He goes, it's nothing weird. No one's going to be like looking at you. You're not wearing spandex and Speedos, and you know, your junk's not hanging out.
Yeah.
He's like, just get rid of all those thoughts and come. So I came to the yoga class, and it was, the guy did such an experience of freeing our mind. Like literally there's in the beginning and the end, he'd have you close your mind. He'd go down this whole, it sounds hokey pokey. He's like, all right, you're floating down a river. The way he described like the scenery out in a river and the rock beds and the sounds you're hearing, it really made you forget you were there.
Yeah.
So if you took 2 yoga classes and you did one where you just went through the same motions that he did versus even probably a shittier yoga class with his explanation,
right,
I probably would have enjoyed his better, just because it really gave me this overall, it was like reading a book. Like I forgot I was in prison for an hour.
Yeah.
So I imagine when you're really giving people the behind the scenes and the stories, you know, part of the reason why we do this podcast is we bring in entrepreneurs, business owners, and sure, you're going to come in, you're going to promote whatever you're doing, whatever book you're selling. But I'm a big believer of if people are going to get behind Shawn, they want to know more about Shawn. Like,
sure,
what are some of the roadblocks you struggled with? What were, even being as a pastor, you know, people like, oh, you're a man of God. I'm sure you had days where you would doubt, am I doing enough? Am I the right person for this? You know, should I be doing this? Where you had to overcome these thoughts of negativity and push through. Can you talk a little bit about how you've had, like, what kind of struggles you've had to conquer to get to where you are?
Yeah. I think the pastoring and the food have been a big struggle, because all of a sudden I'm finding myself in a place of, I guess this is really important for me to say, and for everybody to hear me say this. I value my relationship with Jesus above anything. But it's probably going to look a lot different than what people expect. One, because of who I am as a person, my personal makeup, but also because I've now been in the church for a long time, and now I'm working out with people that may not have anything to do with church at all at some point. And I'm seeing these correlations that are making me really struggle and question everything that I've been doing inside of a building as a pastor.
Like what? Give me an example.
Good example. People will be eating our food. I remember one time we're sitting with a lady who was very clearly like, didn't want to talk about the pastoring side of things, but she had just eaten her food, and she looks at me and she goes, I feel like this was a religious experience. And I said, talk to me more about that. And she goes, I just feel like something is happening inside of me more than just like enjoying the food. I feel like I'm like having an experience that goes above and beyond like tasting the food. And so we've had many experiences like that have given me pause to step back and to go, wait a minute. I think that in the church world at times, there is such a expectation for people to believe and act and be a certain way. And I don't necessarily think that always lines up with the Bible. there's a passage in Psalms where God is talking through the person who's writing, or where the person is writing about God, and he says, taste and see that the Lord is good. Like, that's huge for me, man. Like, as a chef, I'm going, wait a minute, now he's talking about food, right? Like, what's going on here? He's calling us into an experience. He's calling us into like have more than just a rational like ideas about God and moving that into an experience. I think God is experiential. I think when he says taste and see that the Lord is good, I think he's really calling us into a place to say, like, don't just believe in God, experience him. Like, he wants to be there for you. He wants to be present for you. And so I began really transitioning through this. When I went on MasterChef as a pastor, I was praying and I said, God, what do you want me to tell people while I'm there? Like, I'm not just cooking, but what do you want me to say? And I mean, I tell you, like, I heard God as clear as day say, tell him I'm a dad and I want my kids back. And that was what I talked to every single person about. In addition to filming and in addition to cooking, we were having conversations about God in our bedrooms where we're just like sobbing and crying because we could feel this like tangible presence of God filling the room as we just talked about God being good and talked about God being a dad and talking about how he wants his kids back. And it was so powerful, and it changed me in a lot of ways. It really, really took me into this place where I'm like, I don't think I can pastor the same way, because now I'm, instead of talking to Christians about Christian stuff, now I'm talking to people who are not necessarily Christians.
And that's probably a different conversation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Those people are the ones, ultimately, if you're out there spreading the word, sure, you go to church, everybody is already kind of they're already drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right,
They're drinking the holy water already.
Exactly.
You know,
Yep.
how you get people to try the Kool-Aid that haven't tried the Kool-Aid that already think the Kool-Aid isn't good.
Okay. Can we go crazy for a minute? Can we just be crazy?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So I'm sitting there with my buddy.
I was about to get naked. I didn't.
Yeah. I'm sitting there with my new friend who's on the show with me. And he had just gone through a really hard experience. Just really, before he came on the show, his life was kind of falling apart. And we're sitting there one night and I'm talking to him. We're sitting on the beds. And I'm like, dude, I just had like this crazy vision go through my head. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I saw you in your house, like sitting in your house. And I said, and I just got like this picture of Jesus walking through your house with his hands out like this, just walking around. And he goes, what? And I said, what's going on? And he like falls backwards on the bed and starts sobbing. And I'm like, what the heck did I just say? And so he sits up and he goes, dude, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? And he goes, before I left, he goes, I was sitting in my room crying. He said, because of everything that's been going on. And he said, and this is a guy that doesn't even like give a crap about faith, right? Like, he could care less. And he said, I'm sitting there in my bed and I'm crying. And he said, my daughter walks in and she goes, Daddy, there's a man in our house. And he said, I looked at my daughter and I said, what do you mean? She goes, there's a man walking through our house and he's just doing this.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, man, like, I don't know this guy. He's from Florida, actually. I don't know this guy from Adam. Like, we just met on MasterChef. And in that moment, we're having like the most real crazy experience that has nothing to do with food. And he's like, I don't know anything about this Jesus, but I want to. Like, I'm ready. Like, let's go.
That's a huge
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. My hair stood up a little bit on that.
Yeah. And it still does. It gets me to this day. I mean, it's there. Yeah. Yep. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, man, there are no boundaries for God. We create boundaries that we don't need to create. God's a dad and he wants his kids back. And I've got a son who's 8 years old and I love that kid more than anything else in the world. You get between me and my son, there's going to be a fight. Like, we're going to have trouble. And I think the church has done a real shitty job of getting in between God and people and saying, you don't get to run to your dad because you're this, this, and this. And God's going, you better get the hell out of my way because I want my kids back, and don't get in the way of my kids.
Wow.
So that must make it a little challenging because, you know, churches are they're older than time.
Yeah.
And there's the blueprints for them. You know, there's a good message behind it, but it seems like maybe the blueprints need a little bit of updating with modern times and how people comprehend and how you teach.
We just got to get our heads out of the mud, man. Like, we're so like, it's like we want to protect God. It's like we want to like protect his honor.
You're going to hurt his feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need to protect his honor.
I feel like it's people really struggle with saying anything that they feel could be like, if I came to you and said, okay, you can say you've met God or you've experienced God, but I mean, like in the flesh, like he's never sat down and took a picture with you.
Right, right.
Like he's like Gordon Ramsay. You can't get a picture with this guy. So when I used to not be a believer, and I had my own experience in prison, cliche, where I became a believer. But I believe when you challenge somebody, if I said to you, okay, Shawn, I get that you believe in God or believe in Jesus or whatever religion you believe in, but you also have to be open-minded to the fact that it might not be true. And a lot of people will say, well, I know it's true. I get that you know it's true, but there's the realities. And I feel some people are so afraid to even go there and talk about that because it's as if it's like it's damning them to go to hell because they say the possibility exists. It doesn't mean they believe that.
Right.
So when you talk to people sometimes when they're so shut down, and it can be in any conversation, religion, politics, whatever. When you talk to people that you're trying to get them to be open-minded and see from a different perspective, doesn't mean they're going to agree with your perspective.
Yeah.
But instead of automatically assuming they already know where you're going to go or shutting the door, having those, we're trying to start a podcast right now where we get people to come in here and have open debates on some of like the hot political topics, transgender, religion, homelessness, abortions, all of these things, no matter where you stand on it. And the only rule is you can come in here and get passionate about what you want to talk about. You can show your enthusiasm, but no slinging mud, no hurting somebody, no getting physical. And a lot of people don't want to have those debates because if you come in here, like you and I are discussing right now, and if I said something that you didn't necessarily believe with, or if I challenged you, you can't pop up your laptop and go on Google and look for your answer.
Right. Yeah.
You got to be able to kind of talk without getting in your feelings to the point where you shut down and storm out.
Yep.
And I think that's a really tough spot where we live in this world. You know, I'm a believer, and I like kind of the angle that you're going with this because you're not out there trying to convince people in the old way of like throwing a Bible at their head.
Right.
It's more of having a conversation with them and introducing your beliefs through the conversation where it's not even talking about the religion. The woman ate your food and she had a religious experience.
Yeah.
You know, they know your religion. It's not like you hide it, but you don't have to, your spear doesn't have to be dipped in that in order to penetrate through their armor. Wow, that was a great analogy.
That's good.
Stealing that. But I feel like that's what you've been able to do. That's why you're interesting to talk to, because you don't look like a pastor, but what does a pastor look like? Right. That's the problem. We've defined it through this like person. Yeah. Miguel jumped in again. He wants to know how your culinary skills and your roles as a pastor have come together. And we kind of talked about the balance where balance was tough.
Yeah.
But when you were still pastoring after you came back from MasterChef, did your congregation grow? Were there more people coming because they wanted to see the celebrity?
I don't think so. I don't feel like that really happened. I think, I'm trying to think back on that and answer that well.
How long ago was that again?
It was 2017. It was May 31st of 2017 that the show came out.
Okay.
And I think we were growing for different reasons, but then as I started like kind of deconstructing some of my, some of those old school beliefs that I had inside of me and started thinking through, I started getting really just like frustrated with church because I'm like, man, I feel like I'm serving people who don't want to do anything other than, not always. And if any of my people that I served are out there listening, I don't think this was always the case, but it seems like a lot of times we get so stuck in this box that we just want to be in the box and do box things. And it's like, no, we actually, if we believe what Jesus said, like if we really believe what he said, our job is to be in the city. Like Jesus hung out with the worst of the worst and he loved them well. And we're sitting in here with each other, tickling each other's ears, you know, and having a good old time doing churchy things. Nah, I can't do that. Like,
right.
I just can't do it. I need to make a difference with these kids, you know, who are living in the worst part of town and don't have a hope for their future because their dad died or is in jail and their mom's not present. Like, I need to make a difference for these kids. Like, I want to see Yakima become a better place. I want Yakima to become bigger and better. I don't need a church that's going to become bigger and better. Like, we got enough of that, man.
Yeah. And that's when you read a lot of these, you know, proposals for cleaning up homelessness and solving hunger and cleaning up addiction. Problem is a lot of these proposals are written by people that have never been out on that street before.
Yeah, sure.
You know, going to prison, same thing. Before I went to prison, you know, I never really had a whole lot of interactions with people that were very different from me.
Yeah.
Going to prison, you know, the whole stereotype, when I would see somebody with like dreads and gold teeth, I was like, oh, they're dangerous people.
Yeah, sure.
You know, because systemic racism, I believe, is a very real thing.
Absolutely.
And the problem is it's usually not explained properly. So when you hear systemic racism and why people have this chip on their shoulder, you'll get a you know, another group that will say, well, you know, I grew up poor. It's like, it's not about growing up poor. I never drove down the street and worried about a cop pulling me over and shooting me in the face. Like, these aren't things that I ever worried about.
Right.
Now, at some point, you know, I don't want that to become excuses for people, but you have to, these are real things.
It's a real thing.
When I got to prison and started seeing these people that I was living with now, forced into a community, and realized, you know, after a month of being there, I no longer saw the dreads, I no longer saw the gold teeth. It wasn't their personality, that it didn't define them. They did grow up in areas where that's what they wear, you know, and to them, for a lot of them, it is a mask, because, you know, it's what they think, that's what they're expected to be.
Sure.
And it does create a disillusion of, how do you grow out of this? But I got to know them for who they really were. And having conversations with them no longer became weird or disdained. So seeing what you're going through and how you're able to go spend time in like the inner parts of the city, help these individuals, it gives you a different perspective of like what they actually need. You know, homeless people that are living out homeless on the street right now, a lot of them, you know, we see in the news, we see in the media, it's because jobs and cost of this. A lot of them, really, it has nothing to do with that. They don't want to, they're not going to abide by the rules that are put in place at this point. And until we understand what their real needs are, how to meet them, you can't just say, here's a house with a bunch of house rules, and you haven't had rules the last 20 years of your life.
Right.
Well, he doesn't want to live by the rules, so he can't live here. You know, it's not as black and white as that.
No, absolutely not.
And what's the answer? I don't know.
No, it's hard. I think you said it in the beginning too, though. I think it's that conversation piece of we're telling people who have been through what they've been through how they should respond and how they should act. We're speaking for people that we have no business speaking for.
Right.
And so it's like the same thing we do with God. Like, we're talking for God, and God's going, would you just shut up and let me get to my kids? Like, I really want to be with my kids, you know, and you're making a boundary where there's no boundary. And the same is true. Like, we're telling Black people how that they should behave and feel.
Right.
Like, shut up and let them talk.
Yeah.
We're telling homeless people how they should behave and feel. Shut up and let them talk. We're telling homosexuals how they should believe and feel. Shut up and let them talk.
And go spend time with them, so you can. So if you are going to talk, have some perspective of where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, you know, for change to take place, you don't put a policy in today and expect tomorrow for it to be accepted and B, to be rolled out.
Right.
You know, these policy changes, you know, helping individuals, fixing homelessness, fixing all of these drug addictions. Once an actual good idea rolls out, it's probably going to take decades for that to actually be manifested into like the everyday normal thing. So we kind of have to go through a little bit of the fucked up part of it, and watching all of like the shit rises to the top. You shake up that globe, and you kind of have to reconfigure how people's brains, how their thinking works, cognitive skills, where they came from, what their belief systems are. And you can't just assume that everybody should have the same belief system as you. Well, I would never do that. My kid would never do that. Well, that's great. You know, I'm glad your kid would never go smoke crack, but there's a lot of kids that are out there smoking crack that came from really good neighborhoods that people just hide it because they're ashamed to talk about it in their family. Well, I don't want my sister to know because her kid went to Harvard, you know? So when you have that kind of responsibility as a young adult or a young kid, where you're embarrassed of letting your family down, you almost become ashamed. And then you go down that road, and now you think that you're defined as that. No one's ever going to see you any differently. And it's almost like, I'm just going to keep doing this because this is what people expect of me.
Right.
So giving people the ability to go, hey, when you're ready to turn your life around, you know, I'm not going to judge you if you make a mistake.
Right. You
know, if you stop smoking drugs today or using drugs today or shooting heroin today, and you feel like you're going to relapse next week, come talk to me about it. I'm not going to say, I knew it.
Don't hide it.
Don't hide it, man. We can talk about it. We just had our neighbor just committed suicide 2 weeks ago. We just did the celebration of life, and you know, it's horrible because you could tell he was definitely going through some things. But he either didn't feel that he had people he could go really talk about it with, or the people he was talking about it with were the wrong people.
Yeah.
So, we're hoping that something bad happens to one person that can be used.
Yeah.
If God forbid, if your child were not to survive some kind of an event or whatever it is, at some point you either make the decision to mourn forever, or what can you do to prevent that from happening to somebody else by sharing that cautionary tale.
Yep.
And that's kind of the community's method. That's why we have you here today, is you're not some guy that went to culinary school and had some, golden knife come out of your pocket. You figured it out. You watched videos, did studies. How much of your cooking came from watching YouTube videos?
Oh gosh, man. YouTube, TikTok's great right now. I love TikTok. But yeah, I mean, it's Food Network was huge for me. I loved watching all of those, famous names of the 90s and 2000s that were cooking on Food Network. That was I think Food Network is probably my number one inspiration back during that time.
How old are you?
I'm 41 and a half.
And a half. When's your birthday?
December 29th.
Okay. Yeah. So we're close in age.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, my mom was, she taught GED at the college, and worked with the kids that everybody thought were, the worst of the worst. And, these are the kids that are never going to make it. And she loved them. She absolutely adored those kids. And she always tells a story one time of, she had a picture of me and some of my friends, doing ministry up on her wall. And she had a kid that she was talking to one time, and he sat there, big tears in his eyes, and said, I might have turned out like your son if I had a mom like you.
Aww.
And that's, I think that's what we all need to probably stop and hear, is that every story is different. And just because you grew up one way doesn't mean that somebody else is going to have the same story and the same experience. And that's why they should be better. No, they've got a whole unique story of their own that they're trying to figure out how to live out. And if they had better tools, then maybe things would turn out different for them. And so you can either step back and you can judge them, or you can help them get better tools, and you can be present for them and love them. Yeah.
Having the tools obviously is important, and knowing how to use the tools in the right moment, like life skills. We're given these tools on do this when this happens, do this when this happens. But until you deal with real life, coping skills, it's easy to use your tools if everything's going great, but what happens when you lose your job, loss of a family member, wife leaves you, then that's when it's important to be able to use those tools, right? So we're gonna let's jump to his let's go to social media over on Instagram, because it seems like he's got a lot of pictures of your food and stuff. While Tony's pulling that up over there, what are some of your favorite dishes to make? Like if there's only one thing that you could really cook to the end of time.
Probably duck eggs. To be perfectly honest, man.
Duck eggs. That was not eggs? I wasn't expecting that, but
go into more on that.
Do we have duck eggs on your Instagram?
They're someplace. I think I've got a pasta dish with some duck eggs on it, but I think eggs are like the perfect food. There's something about eggs, man. I could eat eggs every day for the rest of my life.
What's the big difference between a duck egg and like a regular egg?
So farm fresh eggs and duck eggs, I mean, really are pretty close, but duck eggs are so much more rich. There's so much depth of flavor. It's kind of hard to describe, but duck eggs are like a chicken egg on crack. I mean, the flavor is just so much more rich and meaty.
And that's probably exactly what some people don't like about it, right?
Could be.
It's got that extra egg thickness of flavor. Where some people eat their eggs and it's like they're eating it with other things. Because they don't like necessarily just the taste of an egg. I'm going to try a duck egg. Where can I come and get one of your duck eggs?
So I actually am raising ducks right now. They're not old enough to give me eggs yet, but I love duck altogether. Just any duck is good for me. But
so what do we got here? What are we looking at?
That's a dish I just did this last week. That is a pasta with lemon guanciale and toasted pine nuts. It's a very Italian dish. In fact, if you watch my video on TikTok, you can see how I made it, and the recipe's on there as well. But guanciale is an Italian bacon. Basically, it is not smoked, but it is just aged with a ton of different herbs, especially rosemary and garlic. And guanciale is just about the best bacon you'll ever have in your life.
Now, do you buy all this stuff local?
No, so I got that, and I was in Victoria, BC last week, and so I was at an Italian deli there, and they had guanciale, and so I brought a bunch back.
Because you probably couldn't get that
fantastic.
here in Yakima.
Not guanciale, no.
Okay.
You can order it, but you're not going to get the guanciale. You can get pancetta. Pancetta is about as close as you can get to guanciale,
Okay.
which is another type of Italian bacon. Yeah. Yep.
And
Good.
what's that?
That's the gator, man. Being
Oh, that's a gator.
from Florida. There you go. Yeah. So that's my son's gator. So he wanted to cook the gator this year. We do a gator grill every summer, and he wanted to cook it this year. So he's talking about it. He's the Fat Pastor Jr. He's amazing.
Has he started his own social media channel yet?
No, he's not quite old enough yet. We're not ready for him to, but
Okay.
we're working on a TV show that's going to be produced here locally, and he's going to be on there with me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
He's going to be
fun.
cooking?
He'll be cooking. He'll be talking. He's got a great personality.
Really?
Yeah, he's going to go farther than I have a million times over.
Sweet. That's what we want.
Yep.
Man.
Yep. Exactly.
So what's the tastiest part of gator?
The tail. Absolutely the tail.
The tail?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's where the most meat's at. Everything else is pretty lean. He marinated this in a sweet tea and bourbon marinade.
Okay. Is it smoked?
Came out delicious. This is over a grill that he and I built in our backyard.
Okay.
And so yeah, so smoked. It's I'd say it's probably around 500 degrees or so in that grill. So we didn't want to go too crazy hot like a pizza oven, but
so 500 degrees
quick.
Probably didn't take too long to cook.
No, I was probably in there for about an hour and a half at the most.
Okay.
Yeah. We
That's
kept it pretty high off the heat.
That's a little gator too, huh?
Yeah, not very big, little guy.
Where did you buy the gator from?
I got it from Louisiana and had it shipped in.
Okay.
Yep.
So it came shipped in like on ice?
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. It wasn't
Ready to
alive
go.
still.
Not alive still. No.
I couldn't
that
do
would've
it.
been a different
Eat it over
story.
the head.
If I was gonna if I was gonna cook a gator and they're like, yeah, we're gonna send you a gator, and they sent me a live gator, honestly, I think that thing would be living in my bathtub right now.
I was gonna say, yeah, you'd have a pet. Yeah.
I have a pet. You know, funny talking about that.
Says a man in the lake the other day with a gator.
Yeah. So moved here from Florida,
Yep.
as I told you.
Yep.
And I don't know if you know, I don't know if you're into plants at all.
Okay.
But there's
My
a
wife
plant.
is.
It's called Mother of Thousands.
Okay.
It's this really cool plant that spawns these little miniature leaves, and when the miniature leaves fall off, they can grow. That's why it's called Mother of Thousands.
Oh,
'cause
cool.
it just
Okay.
grows thousands of little spawns.
Okay.
So we decided to bring the plant with us from Florida to
Mhm.
here. So we brought it to here. We're living in Yakima. We've got the plant in our kitchen. And about 30 to 45 days after being here, I get up in the middle of the night after I did not smoke any weed to get a snack. I got up to get a snack, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing things. I see this little tiny baby little lizard like scurry across the floor. And I'm like, I'm thinking it's maybe a Washington bug. And
Right.
I rub my eyes, I'm like, oh my God, that's a lizard. So I catch this lizard and I go get an aquarium, put it in the aquarium. It's a Florida lizard, 100%. It's
Huh.
a Florida lizard. So I'm like, it's been 30 days. This lizard looks like it was just born.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the plant, and I look in the plant, there's a little tiny egg in there. So there must have been eggs in
Whoa.
the plant. And because we put the plant in the kitchen in direct sunlight, it must have worked like an incubator.
That's amazing.
30 days later, I get up again and I've got 2 cats in my house. 30 days
Yeah.
later, I get up and another little baby lizard crawling on the
Holy
floor.
cow.
So I've got 2 lizards in a tank that are from Florida that I'm not going to be grilling anytime
I was
soon.
gonna
Nice,
say,
nice,
but-
nice.
But yeah,
If my son's listening right now, which I think he is, he'll be loving this.
what's your
Yeah.
son's name?
His name is Asher.
Asher.
Yep.
When you're old enough, Asher, where's my camera? There it is. Asher, when you're old enough and your dad gives you the green light, maybe we'll have you come on and tell some of the funny stories about your dad that he doesn't tell us about. I bet Asher's got some stories.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
So what else we got here? What's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah. So Facebook, I'm the Fat Pastor Yakima.
Let's click on Facebook, Tony.
If you go to Instagram, I am the Fat Pastor. And then on TikTok, it's the Fat Pastor Yakima.
And we'll add that link because I didn't find that one.
Yeah.
So you have go to his website and scroll down. Go to Bike Club, Tony, up at the top, right there, and let's go to Bike Club Yakima. Just click on the black part. There you go. That works too.
Yeah. there you go.
So people become a member of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
What does it cost to become a member? Of Bike-
$150 a year.
$150 a year.
Yep.
And what does that get them to be a member of the Bike Club?
Yeah, so you get access to all the events that we do. So we have 2 sides of Bike Club. Man, we're still coming out of COVID for this, but we have 2 sides now, which is pretty cool. You have the 5-course meals, which is just where we get to tell stories and eat good food. We also have a competition side where we bring in celebrity chefs to do big cooking demos against local chefs. And the winner over the course of 3 rounds gets entry into the World Food Championships, as well as $1,000 grand prize. But the cool part is that the people who are dining, the Bike Club members, they're the ones who are voting for their favorite chefs throughout the meal. So it's super fun. It's really engaging. It's loud. It's crazy. It's fun.
And do you guys do any like get-togethers when you like with the members of the Bike Club?
Yeah.
You
So
have functions and stuff where everybody gets together and
yeah, throughout the year. So once or twice, or sometimes even 3 times a month, people get to come and get to experience these meals, and there's a cost associated with every meal.
Right.
But they get access to that. So you do not get access to these unless you're a member.
And this is probably higher end food and whatnot.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and we're gonna answer another question here. Tony, can you click on it so you keep the screen up and make it to where it's the other view where it's a little bit this screen is smaller and our screen is bigger? You find it? Cool. Okay. So while we're looking at this, Miguel's asking what's some advice for aspiring chef or people, I guess he's saying, that are not successful just yet. So somebody that wants to become a chef, they're going through it, they're watching this video right now, and they're like, oh man, I'm not going to be on any of these TV shows. Can somebody still make it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, make food, cook food, go crazy. There's a lot of different things I would say, but I would say get your food in front of people as much as you can, and get honest feedback, and really encourage people to tell you the truth about what they're tasting, what they like, what they don't like, and don't be offended. The other side is cook through cookbooks, because you're going to learn techniques that you wouldn't learn otherwise.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of my journey, is just seeing all of these recipes and going, I'm going to cook that. And this worked and that didn't work. And, oh man, baking is really specific. I shouldn't, guesstimate next time. And so you'll learn so much that way, and learn from the best chefs in the world. Like, just pull up stuff. I got to work with Massimo Bottura last year, and that guy is insane. And just being around him, I felt like my abilities increased.
Yeah. Who are some of the biggest celebrities you've met going through this?
Massimo Bottura, for sure. So Massimo Bottura has been ranked the #1 chef in the world multiple times. He's had the best restaurant in the world multiple times. And I got to stay with him at his home for a week last year in Italy. And it was crazy, absolutely crazy. And so I love him. I've got to be around Rosemary Schrager, who's been on the British baking show. She was incredibly cool and loved my food. I got to cook for Ruth Reichel here in Yakima a couple years ago. And she's amazing, just absolutely phenomenal. So I've got to be around some really cool people, for sure. I got to cook for the chief scientist of NASA. Oh. That was incredible. That was so cool. He licked his plate clean, by the way.
Did he?
But that was pretty rad.
Do you ever get like crazy requests to cook for people that you can't talk about? Like, hey, you're going to be cooking for this person, but you can't ever talk about it again. This is like, some black ops cooking going on.
I've got one right now that I can't talk about. I don't know if I'll ever be able to talk about it, but yeah, that was kind of a cool one.
Really?
Can
you tell us what you cooked?
What I will be cooking, I don't know yet. I'm still in the process.
Okay.
So
now
that's one.
Do people come to you and say, hey, Shawn? Do people call you Shawn, or they call you Fat Pastor?
So, I've got people who call me Shawn, people call me Chef, people call me FP.
I was just going to say FP.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people come to you, are they like, hey, I really want this specific meal, or here's some things that I like, do your thing?
Yeah, most of the time it's like, this is like kind of the direction I want to go. You decide what to do. And that's the most fun for me, because I hate standard menus. That's just, we do not do anything. If you go on our website and you look for like recipes for your next event, you're not going to find it, but you are going to look for you're going to click on culture. So, hey, I want Asian and I want global to go with that. So I want fusion.
Okay.
I want Pacific Northwest, but I'd like it to have a Italian twist, stuff like that.
So there is some kind of questions you're going to ask somebody for, when we also do podcast rentals where people come in, want to start their own podcast, and they want us to come up with like artwork and things like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll be like, just you create it. It's like, okay, I like that you're giving me that ability to create, but I need a little bit of direction of like, what do you hate?
Right.
Or else I create something that I think is fantastic, but you're like, oh, I hate the color blue.
Right.
Do you have that kind of Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. People will tell us if there's things that they just think suck. But we just did an event not too long ago where it was a big 40th birthday party, and they wanted to do it up. And so they said, hey, he likes this, 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 and this. And I'm like, well, you said Korean, or not Korean, you said Asian, you said barbecue. Let's do an Asian barbecue. And it was a blast. It was super fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's hop over real quick. Click. So people are asking about the teen stuff. Click on the teen chefs up the top, the tab. All the way up, Tony.
Oh, all the way. Okay.
To the right. There you go. Yep. So this was some stuff that who did this? This was Yakima Herald Republic.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what you're going to be doing again at some point, correct? And make this bigger, Tony, so it's a bigger screen. So what are we looking at right here? These are kids that this is food they cooked.
Yeah, so these
look
are.
at that guy in the red in the back. You could tell he cooked something. He's watching.
He's like, let's go. Yeah, so this was when we were still at YPAL, which again no longer exists. But we were using their kitchen there, and the kids were cooking different things. I'm trying to tell what exactly was on that plate. I'm not sure.
Click on over here, Tony.
The kids have done some cool stuff, and they will cook things, and I'm like, that's not going to work, and then it's just fantastic.
So what's he doing? Well, those guys.
He's taking notes right now, so he's listening to instructions and kind of writing down what he's supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Here's Chef Julie. So that's Chef Julie.
Which one?
She is the one in the chef get up.
Okay, with her back to us.
Yeah. No, right here. So this is Chef Julie.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Chef Julie's amazing. She's teaching right there. She really is the one who makes this whole thing happen. I get to be the fun guy who comes in and does demonstrations, gets to play with the kids and just have a good time. But she is classically trained. So she did go to culinary school, French trained. She knows her stuff. So they're making sauces there, getting things ready. Those kids, man, we've had kids that we're still connected with, and they're just amazing. But that program really, 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 it's got our heart. It's so much fun, and not being able to do it for as long as it's been. We did one last year. We haven't done one this year yet. We've graduated 5 classes, but we're just ready for that 6th one. We just got to have it set up right.
People must love that, because that was definitely the biggest question we got when we told people we had you coming on. They were like, we want to know when he's bringing back the kids.
Yep,
so there you go. Now you guys know it's in the works. And I imagine these things logistically, because it's free for the kids.
Yeah.
So it's not like you guys are making thousands of dollars from the parents that are putting their kids in like culinary daycare.
Right. Exactly.
You know, that'd be different. You could go open a place wherever you want because the cost is getting covered. So you guys are really relying on the community to kind of step up, because, you know, unless you're not paying for this out of your own pocket, I would assume.
No,
I'm sure you end up having unexpected expenses that you end up covering.
Yeah, I mean, we look to have anywhere from 10 to 13 kids or so in the program when we do it, and each kid costs us about $1,500.
Yeah,
a kid to run the program,
right?
And that's not chump change, you know.
No.
And so it's but it's happened every time we've done it. It's come together.
Okay.
It's been beautiful. And so people in the community, if you're excited about Urban Kitchen coming together, watch for a fundraiser within the next, however many months, depending on how things come together for us. But that's going to be our first step. You'll see a fundraiser for Urban Kitchen. Be a part of that if you can. Come and help us raise some funds for these kids. And then after that is when we'll start taking the applications from kids.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, Fat Pastor,
hey.
I appreciate you coming out here, and it would be awesome anytime you got an event coming on, because we're obviously trying to grow this whole thing here, and you're a really cool individual to bring in. Anytime you got anything going on, if you want to come on, obviously you're probably doing radio spots, whenever you can, you're welcome to come back here and share whatever you got going on with people.
Thank you so much, you guys. It's really good to be with you guys today, and it's been a lot of fun.
So tell everybody one more time where they can find you. So for people that are catching it at the last minute.
Yeah. So fatpastor.com, thefatpastor.com is our website. You can find us on Facebook at The Fat Pastor Yakima. You can find us on TikTok at The Fat Pastor Yakima. And on Instagram, we are Fat Pastor.
There you go. And guys, we're going to be announcing in the comments of this video by the end of the day by no later than 12 p.m. tonight. We'll be announcing the winner. So check the comments section of this video for the winner of the HP computer that we're giving away. It's 6 months old. It's not brand new. It's a computer that we were using as an extra monitor only. It just wasn't something we needed now that we got this badass studio. So actually, you've been on a lot of interviews. What do you think of the studio?
This is cool, man.
For being in Yakima.
I love it. I think this is great. If you're going to come on the show, you're going to have a great time. It's a great set, and you're going to love hanging with these guys.
Shawn, did you know alligators were born with up to 15 legs?
Dang.
No, what is it? I fucked it up again, Tony. Alligators are born with up to 15 feet.
Okay.
but most of them are only born with 4.
Nice. Nice. Right on.
All right, guys, that's all we got. Shawn, thank you so much,
Thank you,
brother.
guys.
Widescreen, Tony. We're out of here. See you next time. Bye, Shawn.
Take care, everybody.